Chronicle of Higher Education has decided to fire a blogger by the name of Naomi Schaefer Riley because she wrote a piece basically attacking Black studies. And her argument was that Black studies is just left-wing victimization claptrap. Basically what she did is she looked at some of the dissertations.
She looked at the titles of dissertations.
I love that you mentioned that because she cherry-picked a few of the titles of dissertations for a Black Studies program. Of students. And by the way, these were dissertations in progress. They weren't even written, like, they weren't completed.
Right.
So she basically says that all this is all about is victimization. There's no real value to this. In fact, let me read you a piece of her blog that got a lot of criticism. She says, seriously, folks, there are legitimate debates about the problems that plague the Black community, from high incarceration rates to low graduation rates to high out-of-wedlock birth rates, which, by the way, what a huge issue. Out-of-wedlock birth rates. That's something that we should all be so concerned about. She continues to write, but it's clear that they're not happening in Black studies departments. If these young scholars are the future of the discipline, I think they can just as well leave their calendars at 1963 and let some legitimate scholars find solutions to the problems of Blacks in America. Solutions that don't begin and end with blame the white man.
It's a pretty stunning statement for her to have made. And she even admits in her responses when she got this firestorm of criticism for essentially just completely dismissing out of hand an entire segment of academia just on the basis of 3 titles of dissertations in progress that she hadn't even read.
I know.
She admitted that she hadn't even read them. It is rather surprising. You know, you'd think that even as somebody who's steeped in academia maybe would think about whether or not that's actually a legitimate point of view to take. But one way to look at it, you know, is right-wingers should be glad. This is the free market at work. You know, she put out her information, she put out her opinion, people responded and said, absolutely not, this is not acceptable, and she's been fired. So, right, free market works.
So I tried to figure out whether or not I was in favor of the Chronicle of Higher Ed firing her, right?
Okay.
And in the end, I decided that they did the right thing. And the reason why I say that is, as someone who's blogging for a reputable publication, right? And the Chronicle of Higher Education is reputable.
Oh, indeed.
You have to do your research before coming up with any type of opinion or argument. In this case, she didn't do her research, and when she was caught not doing her research, she was defiant about it.
Yes.
Because not only did she say, yeah, I guess I didn't read the dissertations, she said, no, I didn't read the dissertations, and I never would, because I don't find any value in these dissertations, right?
Yes, she's saying that basically that she doesn't have to read these, she doesn't have to know anything more about it. All she has to do is look at it to know that it's worthless. And you know, one could make a case, I suppose, that there is not a market value for this segment of academia, but you know, that's something that all aspects of academia, they're not there to make money, they're not there to please a group of people, they're not actually even there to solve the economic problems of a segment of the population. They're there to study this group, they're there to discuss the history and discuss aspects of the history of this group and how it applies now or doesn't. And that's the nature of academia. So it would say to me that, you know, she's kind of, this Riley is in the wrong job. You know, what she really wants to do is go work at some website that attacks that basically fronts a certain segment of the political ideology and not really discuss higher education. It's very interesting.
And I love how when she talks about the Black community, one of the 3 issues that she mentions is babies born out of wedlock. Like, that's real, like, you Black people need to find a way to solve that problem. Like, that's what
she looks at it as a race problem instead of an economic problem, with every single other study, data points to it always being an economic issue. You know, it's across the board with poor people. It's across the board with lack of access to reproductive choice. It's across the board a lack of access to education. It really doesn't have to do with race. It specifically has to do with economics.